Part 1. Why I chose the Transalp. I had a week between passing my full licence and leaving for a trip to Scotland. It forced me to choose quickly. I actually wanted NC 750X, but I couldn't afford the ones that were available. Exeter Rider recommended the Transalp as a bike that was comfortable, easy to ride and reliable. After seeing one in Stafford that I could afford, I went for it. What clinched it for me was the low mileage and the excellent condition. Part 2. Problems with the 650. Non-mechanical issues with the Transalp 650 centre primarily around the output shaft and the front sprocket. Due to the long suspension travel, the chain has a tendency to be over-tightened and the splines on the output shaft can get worn out due to the tight chain. At this point, the only solution would be a rebuild with a new output shaft. However, before that there is a prevention, and it's a special type of pinion called a super pinion. It's the front pinion and it uses the whole of the output shaft and is offered in a 15 standard teeth, but also a 14th for off-roaders wanting a bit more power, and also for a 16th tooth for those wanting lower revs on the motorway. I think you're just going to start to get the idea that the 650 is a highly customizable and very flexible tool. It is a tour bike, and without a lowered seat or lowering links, it might be a challenge for shorter riders. Me at just over 180 with 34 inside leg, I can't flat foot it with both feet. Number 2, it's also heavy off the side stand. It's not easy to move and is a total pig to pick up. Yeah, just don't ask me about that last point. What's the handling like? As a daily bike, the Transalp fulfills what you need most from a daily or commuter, and I think that's reliability. It starts each time and every time, and to me, in a commuter, everything else is secondary. It's important here to be clear that exactly what it is. It's a 20-year-old bike without ABS or any modcons. That makes it a simple old school bike. It's not got DCT, it's not got a front like the NC 750, it's not got powerful MT10 acceleration, it's not CRF, it'll be happily spend all its day off-road. It's not a gold wing that'll make you feel like sitting at a sofa at 100 miles an hour. However, it does have a few elements of all of these bikes without being specialised in anything in particular. And depending on your point of view, that's a terrible or it's a good thing. Taking it off the stand, you do feel it's a heavy bike. More than 211 kilo wet, I would suggest. It's actually quite heavy and difficult to get off its side stand, but once it's away, it's light and easy. Commuting on wet winter roads can get a bit choppy. I think that's due to the vague feedback through the handlebars. Whilst on one side this is brilliant on the pot-riddled roads where the ride is positively luxurious and extremely comfortable. And I think it's this aspect of its handling that's contributed to its imagined comfort. On one side of the coin you get the poor handling when it's taking corners or trying to speed around bends. The Transalp is not a bike I'd personally take where I have to keep up with a large number of fast riders. Others have a different opinion. I always felt that Patita was the happiest, chilled out, meandering down the street over any surface, and at that chilled out pace, it was pure joy. As soon as I tried to keep up with a fast-paced rider, the faster my speeds would get, the tighter my corners would get, just due to the turning circle of a 21-inch front. I think also it's important to note here that it's that top-heavy nature of the bike always remains on my mind. Then is the 21-inch front an issue? Well, my Himalayan 450 also has a 21-inch front, but it handles much better. The difference here, I think, is that it's a rear 17-inch tyre. The Alp has a 120 width tyre, whilst the Himalayan has a 140 rear. Keep in mind that the Transalp 750 has actually got a 150 width tyre, and everyone loves the handling on that. Overall, for most conditions, the Alp is fine. It's only when I've really started to push, I've started to feel uncomfortable. I've taken it off-road a lot of times in the peaks, and it's been great. Down gravel roads, no problem. It gets a bit muddy, a bit choppy. But I also think it's important here that the tyres, for the sizes available, you can get almost fully road tyres, and you can easily get knobblies for other sizes. So I think that's the ability to customize the Alp, that if you want to take it off-road, you can set it up that way. If you want to have it completely on the road, you can set it up that way. You can set the suspension that way. It's relatively easy to do. Same thing with the tyres. And there's so many options available. I have taken it off-road a lot of times in the peaks, and it's been nice, but I don't have the time for it. I've not got the bike set up for it, so there's not really much I can say. But I know a lot of people who regularly take their Alp off-road, and they absolutely love it. But I think it has to be set up to do that. In summary, the handling is okay on road, but as soon as I've tried to speed up and push it, I've come into problems. I don't think it's a very flickable bike. To me, it's a sensible plodder, and it's kept me in line from doing anything too silly or getting myself into any trouble. So I think in those terms of times it's fun. But again, I would say that's my limit. That people there who can do a lot more than me, and they'll have a different opinion. But again, for me as the average rider, that's my view. Is it a comfortable bike? I've done many 300-mile days, and it was no issue. I wasn't totally destroyed, and I did the same for many days on a row whilst on tour. It's interesting now when I ask why was it comfortable, and I think for me there's a number of factors in it that came together. Yeah, that seat comfort for me at 1.8 meters with 34 inside leg, it canters me slightly forward. It's very comfortable, lots of leg space and lots of leg protection. Number two, the handlebar position was very wide and very comfortable for me, almost with no vibrations. The clutch is very nice, and again, I think that seating triangle between these two things was very nice. Lots of space to move around if needed, but very comfortable. Number three, the quiet engine noise. I do still have the OEM exhaust. Well, but for me, having the HJC 90S carbon, and in comparison to my Himalayan 450, the Transalp badly was so quiet. Number four, it was wind protection. I actually had one of the tallest windscreens you can get, and added an extender on top, and this made it super comfortable, as there was very little wind except for right at the top end of my helmet. Side winds were obviously always there, but until I got the Himalayan 450, I forgot just how quiet and how protected I actually was. Power! To me, 52 horsepower is enough. It doesn't sound like much, but for me it's enough to sit comfortably on a motorway speeds and cruise. I've done 300-400 mile days, and it's been sufficient for me. I'm not the kind of person who rides particularly fast. I'm a plodder, and for me, I'm very happy with the bike. Number six, light and easy handling. I've been over a lot of potholes that I should have really avoided, and it's been no issue. And so I think that part, knowing that if you do make a mistake, the bike's there to look after you, I think that's something that helps. Ultimately, I believe that it's the same reasons that make it a comfortable bike also causes issues. Its tipping point comes way before the Z650, way before my 125 Sim Donkey. CX500, it comes way before the Bullet, and even Himalayan. It's something that was constantly on my mind, but it did stop me from giving too much or trying to lean over too much. I think in some ways that was a good thing, and it encouraged me to ride more relaxed and take the safer options each time. Economy. This was actually one of my constant bugbears. Whilst owning the bike, besides being constantly ribbed everyone for my more frequent fuel stops, likened to my old man needing the toilet, getting 43 miles per gallon from a 650 was frustrating. I was getting litre bike fuel economy from a bike that gave 500cc performance, whilst many people in the forum have claimed a heck of a lot more in the high 50s. I never saw it. Riding around the Peak District and local roads and commutes, I got around 43 miles per gallon average. On tour, on pure motorway miles, I would actually get about 47 miles per gallon. The best run I ever got, once only on one refuel, was 50.1 miles per gallon during a motorway run back from the NC500. For me, when I see the CB500X getting around 65 miles per gallon on average, and with cheaper insurance, or the DeVille 650 getting 10 miles per gallon better than my average 43, I do question why I don't have a CBF 1000 gets an average of 41 miles per gallon. At least I've had the performance of the MPG. I always felt I was getting the worst of both worlds, and that really irked me. I'd choose to see it just to make myself feel better. Is, well, I'm not doing 80, 90,000 miles a year, am I? So if I pay 30, 40, 50 pounds, 100 pounds extra over fuel for my hobby, well, it's fine. It is what it is. But I think if I was doing a massive tour and doing a lot more miles, I think that'd be an issue. Accessories and upgrades. Here's where the Transalp really shines. The 650 is genuinely an incredibly flexible bike and can be taken in any direction and focused depending on the user's requirements. Even after 20 years, many parts are still available, and it does share many parts with the Africa Twin 750, which has the same engine as it does share with the DeVille 650. Second-hand prices for parts can be quite reasonable, and there are always deals out there for people breaking old Alps on places like eBay, doing batches for parts. I think it's that flexibility that I quite like. I like having a bike that can be modified quite easily to whatever the user requires. Many people off-road their Alp, and it's quite a goer, and the road bike is quite capable too. Whilst there are many specialist places still making parts, you can get new things on eBay, or you can even go to the world expert Golfi workshops in Italy, where you can get some pretty funky stuff done to your Alp, including making it a Goldwing styled fixed boxes, comfort seating, or you can have it stripped down, super lightweight and enduro type. The thing is, it's not cheap. The question I now ask is, I've invested a fair amount into the bike, is it worth it? Putting potentially a few £1,000s into something that I'll never see in the resale value, or something that I'm potentially just going to lose. Would it not be better for me to get a newer bike and invest into that, and then potentially have fewer issues than I would do with this 20-year-old bike? But at the same time, it is quite cheap to buy. You can an amazing value for money for £1,500. Something reasonable to £3,000, something a very extremely good nick. You can have an extremely capable bike, and if you can do all the work yourself, you're laughing. But if you need someone else to do the work for you, and they're going to give you a bill for a few £1,000s for this totally upgraded bike, I think the question I would ask was, £6,000 to £7,000 on a potentially 20-year-old bike, how's that going to compete against a modern 3 or 7-year-old bike on cost, or capability, or even reliability? That's something only you can answer, as you will have your own riding and your own thinking and your own requirements. But as a cheap winter hack or an off-roader that will allow me to explore, I think it's a great option. And especially Hondas from this era are incredibly well made and have proven themselves again and again. They just don't make them like that anymore, is something I've heard so many people say, and it's true. If I was going around the world tomorrow, I would happily consider the Transalp 650. For getting a carnet, the low price of the Alp would be a bonus, and it's a simple carbureted steel frame bike and would make repair by any mechanic anywhere in the world easy, compared to any modern bike with a computer. I think it actually has a particular nature that gives it flexibility and possibility, and I think in that way the Transalp 650 is an incredibly good bike. Is it the right thing for me? I'm not going to list a load of bikes, but I will go through my thought processes and how I perceive the bike and how I would place and contextualize it. For me, looking today at a bit of do-it-all bike like the Alp 650, I actually have quite a lot of options. However, it's curious that Itchy Boots just unveiled a new bike, and it's a Tenere 600, 40-year-old. And it really begs the question that someone with the potential to get any bike to travel, why would you choose something like that? In her video, I think the explanation said it all. 160 kilos, simple to run, off-road capable, and there's not really actually much that we can buy with those sort of specifications for that sort of price today. There have been some genuinely incredible bikes made in the past due to various reasons, especially emissions, change the market, economy, politics, design. The accountants in many cases are just not made today, and they are classics for a reason. And I suppose in my case, things have changed for me, as I've hurt my back a few times in the past 18 months, and I feel that I now need something smaller and lighter and easier to manage. So that's why something at a few £1,000s, like the Himalayan, was something realistic for me, and it was within my affordability. I might have gone for a second-hand Transalp 750, but again, I'd rather spend the difference on a trip, upgrading my safety equipment, going on courses, getting accessories, or better quality insurance cover. Conclusion. Ultimately, in my case, I'm very sensitive to the price at the time I purchased the 650. I wasn't expecting to go back to doing off-roading as I had done in the past, and so it was something that I really enjoyed. But I wasn't 20 and single anymore. What I wanted had changed without me knowing it. But importantly here, Patita really accommodated all of my moods and changes. She helped me to learn what I wanted from biking. She allowed me to explore and see all I wanted to see and do all I wanted to do. She was forgiving enough of all my mistakes and got me out of trouble whenever I made some dodgy decisions. Patita was exactly who I needed at the right time in the right place. She has been brilliant, and whilst I might have things to point out, overall I'm really happy with her. I'm really happy with the decision, and I don't think I would actually change it. However, as the last episode of Next Generation is called, all good things. In Scotland on the NC 750, I dropped Patita. Whilst I was taking photos, I forgot to leave it in gear and ended up smashing up all the right side of the fairing. She didn't complain. Thankfully, I had a Pooley. We taped everything up, and she took me 1,000 miles back home. The plastics are going to cost me a fair bit. It's £600 you can get from the Golfy workshops for the fairing replacement, and it's going to cost me probably a bit more just to paint it and get it and replace other bits and parts. I may have kept her had I not purchased a Himalayan 450, but Luna has an almost 300-mile range and saves me quite a lot over Patita. I just can't afford to run so many bikes. I know I'm going to regret having to sell Patita without any doubt, but times are tough. It's been a terrible year for me in so many ways, and so something has to give. I haven't taken any trips this year apart from the Saddlebag social ride, and I've not really been able to go out or spend much time biking at all. And to be honest, I can't really afford to fix up Patty, and so I'll be selling her at some point. Well, but should you get one? I think as long as you're aware of what the Transalp 650 is all about and are happy with the limitations, I can imagine someone keeping one for a very long time and loving her to bits. Patita, the Transalp 650s and all Transalps will always have a very special place in my heart, and I genuinely think there is something very special about them. Despite their flaws, they are the little bike that could punch above their weight. They're fun, and they have amazed me and kept on going. I genuinely love my Transalp, and I will miss you.